Evening, friends. Effective communication. For the communication to be effective, the very important and essential thing is to ensure that the information that you would like to pass in that communication needs to be very specific. If you are very specific on what you would like to convey to the other person to the level it requires, then you would achieve the effective communication. Just let's take an example of a small communication bit. One person is asking the other person, please come at the second street at 10 o'clock. This is the communication that was conveyed from one person to the other person. And despite the fact that it seems to be a good communication with required details present in this communication, if you see in depth and in specific on this statement, there are so many open-ended questions that may arise for the other person to ask. And the effective communication ensures that the person to whom it was communicated needs not to raise any single question and any single doubt on what has been conveyed to him or her. But in this specific example, please come to the second street at 10 o'clock. So the person needs to be specific on which second street. The second street from this side or the other side. And when it comes to time, 10 o'clock, whether it is 10 a.m. or 10 p.m., and these kind of things needs to be very specific. That's why during the communication, this is always preferable to be more scientific as measurable as possible. I still remember that before 10-15 years, when I was working in a company, my boss was instructing me to take a small object from his office, from a drawer in his office. And I still remember the communication. He told me to go into his office and he wants me to sit on his chair, facing me towards the table, towards his office table. Then he told me to turn 90-degree right side from the position I sit. When I turn 90 degrees right hand side, he wants me to open the first drawer from the top side, and he told me to go inside, to check inside the drawer top right hand side corner to take a specific object. Actually, in this communication, I didn't have to ask him back any question because I didn't have any doubts to ask, because the communication was crystal clear and it conveys all required input that is required for the person to understand and to follow the instructions. Communication needs to be like this. Ensure always that you are very specific on what you communicate. Probably you might be thinking something in your brain which you thought that the other person to whom you are communicating are clear enough to grasp what you are telling, but it may not be the fact. Most of the time it would not be the fact. So be more specific and go in depth in specific and go into minute details that you would like to convey in such a way that the person to whom you communicate has a very clear input on what he or she needs to understand, grasp, or what to do further on that specific communication. Thank you very much for watching this. Have a good night.